Hobojo, Dene Indigenous Cas, Bindike Gijago Kwe Indigo, Igon Indodem, Ajo Inani Indon Jaba, Winnipeg Ninda, Mide Kwe Indao, Megwa, Nigagwe, Nita Dishnabem. Hi everyone. Bojo, I'm so happy to be here. I even told these guys, I even cleaned my craft room for this today. So I'm really happy to be here and share. So Charissa asked, of course, we all do a lot of Zooming these days, and most of our meetings are taking place in Zoom. So we all get a little glimpse into each other's houses. And my craft room during the pandemic has been transformed also into my office, as well as my study space and my reading space and my Netflix space, along with many other people. So a little glimpse into my craft room is something that we get to share as a team at MICEC pretty much like every other day when we meet on Zoom. So everyone keeps joking that this was the chance to get an inside peek as to the magic that happens behind the curtain. But before we kind of delve into the many layers of things that are going on here, I wanted to talk just a little bit about what the process of creating things is for me, and kind of why that's important. So as Charissa mentioned, I work as a consultant. At this stage in my career, I've worked in tourism and marketing for about 15 years. I've been fortunate to travel to many countries around the world. I've been fortunate to meet many amazing people across this province, across this country, and help business owners and communities, welcome visitors and prepare for visitors when they come there. So it's a bit ironic, I find, that I'm now welcome through Zoom in space here. So part of what my work has been in marketing and branding and telling people stories. And I find that the crafting process is part of that for me. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is that as Indigenous peoples, we always have been known throughout time to wear our identity through our clothing, to express ourselves through the things that we create. And I really enjoy seeing how that process is really overtaken into who we are now, because certainly that continues on with this generation and the next generation, and the people that are younger than me and coming up and expressing themselves in really, really cool ways. So for me, and I think for everyone, we always have to look to those people that have taught us whatever it is that we know. And I've been fortunate to have many, many teachers. And so first, of course, the questions are always, where did you learn to sew? So first of all, of course, I have to recognize my mother. She's probably watching on Facebook. I should have tuned in to see, but I'm sure my mom's out there. So hi, Mom. She's who taught me how to sew. And we've had lots of fun adventures, learning to sew different things together. Some things I'll show later as we go through my ongoing project pile. And so I think, from a young age, our moms and our grandmas are the ones that really are able to show us and demonstrate the kind of person we're going to be in the future. And so I was fortunate to have a really amazing mother who's very crafty herself. And you think my craft room is good, you see her craft room. We have fun in her craft room a lot as well. And so learning to sew with her and her teaching me, and crafting together has been a really fun adventure now that I'm an adult and have some time to do that with her. So we've taken some classes together. I'm sure we're going to continue to take classes together, and it's a really fun way that we get to visit and spend time. Secondly, I'm also fortunate to have a second mother in my life, my stepmother, who's also extremely crafty and really, really an amazing artist. She's who taught me how to bead. I remember as a child, laying on the floor while she's putting together the pieces of a star blanket. I remember her teaching me how to do loom work, which was one of the first types of beadwork that I learned how to do. And she also is always working on a project, and it's really amazing to get to spend time together, crafting together as well, and learning different things and comparing how we do things and learning from each other. I really, really enjoy that. And then thirdly, there's so many women in our community that are amazing teachers, and they share so selflessly. And so I really want to shout out to so many amazing women in our community that have shared that I've learned from. The women on this call with me as well. You know, Danielle's an amazing artist. Charissa says she's not crafty, but she's super crafty. Anna as well is an amazing mother and crafter. And so I think there's other artists in the community as well. You know, Janine Crouchy is selflessly gives all her knowledge to anyone who asks, and it's really amazing to have the opportunity to learn from her. And then also the pieces that have been left behind, those pieces that are in museums, those pieces that are even in the Indigenous Cultural Center. You know, we learn from those every single day, and the ability to be able to spend time with pieces made by others, even from through generations, is really a learning opportunity to me. So it kind of leads me to wonder and ask myself, why is it that we craft, and why is it that we are the type of people that always want to be doing things? If I look at everyone on this phone call, and probably everyone watching on Facebook who's my friend anyways on Facebook, we all are crafty people, and we all like to spend time creating. And so what is it that has happened through the pandemic, at least for me, is that there's been an opportunity to really create community around online spaces as it comes to people that are making. So I want to shout out to my Saturday night theater crew that I hope is out there somewhere. I have a group of ladies that we've never met in person, and we've been beating on Saturday nights for like a year and a half. So maybe one day we'll meet in person. I don't know, but Rich always laughs. My partner Rich always laughs because he says it's Saturday night in the basement, and he hears our laughs all the way up the stairs through Zoom. And we've talked about lots of different things, from, you know, really personal things that we're all going through, or concerns, or you know, teaching each other skills. So Saturday Night Ladies, I know you're probably watching this too, because I shared this to our group. So I think the pandemic has provided opportunity for community to be created in a different kind of way, and around crafting and around creating. And so those ladies have kept me sane. Those ladies have kept me together, and I've really enjoyed spending time with them. So when you think about some of the things that we make and how those things are reflected upon ourselves, it's not just about bringing us together with other people, but bringing us closer to ourselves. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I got started. So one of the challenges around crafting, and especially as Anishinaabekwe, you know, you learn from other people that you can be using your grandmother patterns and look at those things that the people that came before you created. But I know that that also has created barriers of inaccessibility for some people, and that there's questions around, what if I don't have my grandmother's patterns? What if I don't have, you know, beautiful birch bark cuttings that my grandparents or my great grandmother was using to create? And so that was something that I had to overcome, because I didn't have that either. I didn't have patterns that were really passed down for me. It's a reclamation and relearning process with everyone in my family. So so part of my process as well has been creating these patterns for the next generation, because I'm an ancestor of the future. And so part of my process as well has been learning from others, and then creating my family patterns that I hope to pass to my nieces or my nephews, or whoever wants to learn from us together, because family is more than just those people that are immediately close to you in your family. So the stage of me creating patterns, of course, is we're going to do a little like tips and tricks as we go along. Is that cool? Anyone have any questions? Okay, good. All right. So there's a lot of artists out there that are really generous and really amazing. One of the artists that I'm really big fans of is Jessica Gokey. So everybody knows her as this amazing Anishinaabe beadwork artist. Jessica is also a teacher and really, really generous with her skills and abilities. And there's so many that are. So Jessica has an online class that she runs. Part of her online class is she actually has created patterns for her students. So you're able to print out the patterns and use that as a learning opportunity. So for people like me that are don't know where to start, and I'm a beginner. I'm not of that skill set when I was really trying to figure out, what is my message when I'm crafting. You can go to an artist like Jessica. She has a class on the website. It's super affordable. Everybody should sign up. She's so generous and amazing and a beautiful artist. So sorry for the glare. I put it in protector. So there's a page of patterns that she has sent to all of her students. So what the best trick that I've ever learned is to buy one of these light tables off of Amazon. I don't want to necessarily turn it on because it might blind you, but this is a light thing. And then you can put your pattern on here and then trace it, and makes your life a whole lot easier. So these light things that my friend Adora Lee showed me to buy, it was super cheap. It was like $20 off of Amazon. And then you can create your own pattern. So whether you use that to get yourself started, the center also brought in an amazing teacher. His name was Neil Offendike. Neil passed away a few years ago, but he was
We just lost you. There we go.
You're back. Can you hear me again? We're okay? Okay. He was an amazing artist, and he taught us so many of his tricks around how he put things together. And he really influenced a lot of how it is that I do my beadwork now. So one of the things that he taught us was that once you draw your pattern, he would create pattern templates, usually out of plastic or construction paper or something really kind of hard. And so what he taught me is that you buy this, you can buy plastic placemats at the dollar store. This is actually to create quilting templates from Joann's Fabrics. And this is really cheap. I mean, it's like $8 or something, and you get like 3 sheets. And then you can actually cut out your pattern template from something like this. So, I mean, my objective and to live that minimum babats to win is always that effort to try to be a better ancestor. So I hope one day someone will find my little pattern. Maybe one of my nieces, maybe one of my nephews, maybe someone down the line, maybe Anna's kids, maybe Sharissa's, I don't know, but someone will find these patterns at some point and say, hopefully that they're thankful that someone was thinking of them to create their patterns in the future. And so the next stage of that, once you have your little flower, that's a good starting place, but our big ambition is always to get to a place where we're actually creating something, where we're actually creating a moccasin or something like that. So how do you get from this to this? Is you get your other patterns. I don't think you can see that. But you can take your template, trace it on here, and then you do your connections. So this is a pair of moccasins that I actually made my sister last year for Christmas. And I kept the pattern template because maybe one day her kids might want to be able to follow this template and make themselves another pattern. I also kept the vamp. Here's the vamp. So this was sized especially for her foot. These are my sister's moccasins. And it just felt really important to me to keep these pieces because I don't necessarily think I'm going to copy them and make another pair just like them. But I do think that I have a responsibility to those that come after me that may want to do something like this. So, so understanding that connection between what it is that we're doing now and who it is that we are now and where we want that to go in the future was really, really important to me. So that is creating patterns. I also wanted to shout out my dear friend Marissa Cummings. Marissa is Omaha and she lives in Minneapolis now. And she was really generous and she has these beautiful applique skirts. And I was really amazed by her skills and the ability. And she's also, of course, was willing to teach me one weekend. So we took a road trip together. And so she walked me through how to make all of this. But the cool thing about this and the patterns that come from this kind of ribbon work is that it also is all based in your identity. and who it is that you are. So we spent a lot of time together, and she helped me sort of walk me through the process on how to create a pattern. But the patterns that are in skirts like this are usually belong to your family or yourself or your grandmother's. And so the pattern that came from here, I also made sure that I kept. So you can see, there it is. So these, I don't know that I'll ever make anything from this again. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll come up with a new pattern, but I do really think about, you know, when I was starting my journey and how much I wished I had some patterns from someone who came before me. And so I hope that these serve someone at some point in the future. So I notoriously have lots of little plastic envelopes and containers that have individual things in it. You'll see as we go through the room. Okay, so there's patterns. Does anyone have any questions so far?
First of all, those are so beautiful. Like hearing you talk about crafting and relationships and your work and yourself, it like makes me want to craft.
Oh,
And
come
I'm not
over
a crafter. It's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love that you're doing that as well, keeping all of your patterns. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something
So-
I certainly wish that I had started earlier, I think, but I hope anyone, if anyone is a beginner crafter and is just getting started in that journey, I think if there's one lesson I can give you, and I really hope that people will remember to keep their patterns and remember to store those for the next generation.
Mm-hmm. So we do have a question from Facebook. Kale wants to know, oh, I wanted to know this too. Kale wants to know if you have a favorite project that you've worked on.
Oh my God, Kale, I'm so, like, that's done or ongoing?
Can we say both?
We say both. Yeah. Okay. We'll get to ongoing because we're going to go through the project pile. I actually was like a little overwhelmed this morning when I was digging through the project pile and realized how many unfinished things I have on the go. I think one of my favorite, you know, I really love crafting for gifts. I'm really not great at like selling, but just I always tell people I would love to make things for other people, but like my customer service department is terrible, and like my turnaround time is really bad. I'm really bad with deadlines, and yeah, I find it all really like a lot of pressure. And so my favorite things that I've ever made have all been gifts that I've given to other people. So I think the moccasins I made my sister, like sometimes, you know, when you finish a project and you look at it and you're like, oh, that was good. I did good. They're really beautiful. I really must say, like I was really, it's always to me, like the stuff that I make for other people, I'm always probably more proud of. I think they end up being really beautiful because of that energy and stuff that I put into other people. Like this was my learning pair of moccasins. I made these for myself because I wanted to learn how to do it. And then my second pair I gave to my sister, and they ended up really, really nice. And I was quite happy with them. So they live in California now, but hopefully they'll come visit soon. So that's one of my favorites. And then we'll probably get to some other beadwork projects that are still ongoing. Thanks, Kale, for the question.
Yeah, thanks, Kale.
Oh, something else that I've made that was like really, really super awesome to make. I made a black ash basket. I was at a conference and I was fortunate that John Pigeon was there, and he was willing to teach anyone if you were willing to do the work. So my friend Marissa, the aforementioned beautiful applique Marissa, and I were like, how much work can it be? We can do it. We got like 4 hours. We're good. Oh my God. No, John was like, okay, girls, pick up the axe. You got to split the tree. You have to beat the tree for like 3 hours. You have to pull the splints off, then you split the splints. Oh no, this was a hands-on experience. And so approximately maybe 12 hours later, we were in our hotel room and our hands were sore and we were so tired. But we all walked away with a really beautiful black ash basket that we made ourselves. So I'm really thankful for really amazing teachers that I probably wouldn't appreciate it that much if I hadn't just spent so many hours in the rain in Michigan on a really cold day working for it. He was amazing. Yeah. And just for the record, this is his work. So this is like pro, and then this is amateur. It's kind of embarrassing, but I'm still proud of it. He's an amazing artist.
Is that sweetgrass on the bottom of yours?
Yeah, that's sweetgrass on the bottom.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so that one is really fun, but sometimes the funnest part is working for it really hard. Any other questions?
That's true. So many questions. So many questions. I had a question while you were talking earlier about pieces in the cultural center. I was wondering if you have a favorite piece in the cultural center. I could take a picture and put it in the comments after.
Oh my gosh. I love everything at the cultural center. It's like, it's a gem, amazing place to work. But from the handmade side of things, I think some of those baskets that are in the glass case in the front, I really like the intricacy and the like really fine work. It's completely overwhelming to think about how much work that is. So because I always feel like really clunky and clumsy, like you can see with those baskets, like that's my like amateur like big splints, and like it kind of looks like it's like the kindergarten block version of basket making. And then you look at like John, who's been doing this his whole life, and he's an amazing artist, and like the skills that he has to do this really fine, beautiful twisted work is like, yeah, it's just gorgeous. So that, I mean, everybody loves the beaded outfit. So if you could post a picture of that, that would be really cool.
I will, for sure.
Yeah, there's so many things at the center that are beautiful. Okay. Do you want me to?
In the comments after.
Okay. Do you want me to move on to showing some stuff, or do we have something else?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. So, I think one of the first things that I started off kind of, and I think is actually kind of my comfort zone of crafting, is sewing. I love sewing. I feel like you can do like, you make a lot of progress really fast as opposed to something like beadwork, which is so fine and tiny and it takes you forever to do like, you know, an inch. With sewing, I can do like a bigger project. And I just get a lot of satisfaction around it. So, but the problem with sewing, you see, is that there's lots of different stages of quilting. And so I'm really good at putting the tops together, but like there's more work that needs to happen. So none of these projects are done. This is my confession time for all my projects, that these are all pandemic projects that I have yet to complete. But I don't know, winter's coming, right? So let's move this down a little bit. Here we go. So here's a simple little quilt. Everything's folded, so this is like a twin size quilt that I love. I love show and tell. It's fun.
So pretty.
Yeah. This one is a pattern that I actually made up. And I wanted to use up a whole bunch of different scraps that I had. Because as soon as you become a quilter, you also become a collector of scraps. So this is actually a queen size quilt, and every block is a different fabric.
That's so beautiful. I love
this. I don't know why it's not done. I keep telling Richard I need more floor space so that I can finish these. So yeah.
What needs to be finished on it?
Well, so quilts have 3 parts, right? And I'll get to that when I get to the bottom one here. They have a backing, they have a fill, and then they have the top. This is just 1/3 of the quilt. There's all my seams.
Wow.
It doesn't sound real hard when you have to like put 3 parts together and then sew it all again, but it's
Linda is saying to get it done.
Yeah. I do love this quilt though, so this winter, hopefully.
That's so beautiful. I love that one. I love how colorful it is.
So this was another one. I was gifted some fabric. I do like this one. Kind of looks like looking through a window, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like an optical illusion almost.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I like this one. My pile of unfinished projects. This is kind of embarrassing. I don't even know if I should be showing you guys all this.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah, I like this one too.
Could you sew two of those sides together for a finished project?
Yeah, you know, some people do. I really love this one. This one's called a Bargello. This one's
Wow,
kind of an optical illusion, hey? Yeah, that's pretty
I
cool.
love it.
All right. That's it. That's not bad, right? That's the six unfinished projects. That's not bad. But then this one, everyone heard about this one yesterday. It's no longer a secret, but let's pretend I'm not showing you. So this one is a star blanket. And this one's actually closer to being finished than all the other ones. So this one has the top with the back, and then there's a fill. So all I have left, the next stage after that, is what's called the binding. And I've already have it made. So the binding will basically just close off these raw edges.
Beautiful.
Oh, did we lose audio? Sorry.
I think we're losing audio a little bit. We can still hear you, but it's just quiet.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. I'll take the headphones out. I think that's what happened. Okay. I might have to yell a bit, but just tell me if you can't hear me. So one of the things that my mom and I took a class together to do is to learn how to make star blankets. So the first star blanket we made in our class was a baby star blanket. Whoops. Sorry, I just realized there's some kind of background noise, but it's not impacting you guys?
No.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Weird. Okay, my mom and I took a star blanket making class with Chantel Daniels, who's an amazing teacher, Red Cedar Gifts. If you ever get to learn from her, please go do so. She taught us how to make star quilts, and our first star quilt took us, I think, 6 weeks. It's a bit crazy. It was a baby star blanket. I don't have it anymore because I gave it to my nephew when he was my sister when they had their son. And it took 6 weeks. Needless to say, we picked up the pace a little bit. So here is kind of a oversized queen size for our football friends in Winnipeg. Then that what they've done is adapted into their logo. So I have to finish that.
And how long have you been working on that one?
Hours wise, probably maybe 50 hours-ish. A
Wow.
friend of mine, actually, Lynette Ruta, is the one who quilted it. So she has a bunch of hours into it as well. But I'm much closer to being able to do one like this on a weekend, as opposed to 6 weeks.
Wow.
A baby star quilt I can probably do in about 8 hours now, not 6 weeks anymore. but it still is a bit of a process. And so people ask all the time if I sell them and if they can buy them. I always tell them they should go buy hand quilted star quilts from like Granny's on the Res, because they actually make really beautiful handcrafted ones, and they're so much nicer than mine. And my customer service department is terrible, like I said. Not so great. I can hear audio. What if I stop that? There, that's better. Okay, How are we for time?
We have about 25 minutes left. You're doing
Perfect.
pretty good.
Great. All right. So any questions about quilting or sewing?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you what you love the most about crafting.
What do I love the most? The visiting. And so like I think that's one of the hardest parts about having to craft by ourselves right now. But on the other hand, like I said, we've kind of figured out workarounds. I haven't found a really good way to sew with other people yet because sewing machines and Zooming doesn't really work out so good because they're so loud. But beading is really good for Zooming. So, because it's a nice quiet activity. So like I said, I got my Saturday night beading ladies that I love. There have been lots of other artists that have hosted beading circles. Sharissa and Danielle hosted a beading circle with a wonderful group that I kind of dropped in and then would leave and wasn't able to stay the whole time. Other artists, like in Thunder Bay, there's a group of artists that have hosted beading circles on and off on Zoom. And like, I just really love them. I just think it's really great. You can come and you can listen, you can turn on your camera. You don't have to turn on your camera. I do look forward to the day when we can craft together in the community like we used to do at the cultural center. So I know we'll do that again one day and I'll be there for sure.
Yeah, we love.
I also really love like Netflix. I can measure quilts in Netflix. Like this was like a season of Vikings to make this. How long this took me. I don't know how many hours that is, but Vikings, yeah.
That's too funny. So what's something that you still would like to learn? I feel like you know everything. What do you want to learn?
Oh my God. I would really love the opportunity to do another black ash basket. I'd really love to learn like willow basket making. I know we've talked about doing that at the center a number of times, and there's some really amazing teachers in this province. I'd really love to learn that. I'd really love to be better at birch bark work. I have birch bark and I can do stuff with it, but it's so precious that I'm always like really scared that I'm going to mess it up. So I'd really love to be better at that. I think there's always just like, I don't know that there's ever an opportunity where you're like, yeah, I'm as good as I could be, right? So learning other people's techniques is always, it's endless. Like it's never I'll never be done. I don't know. There's no way that I can ever be like, yeah, I've learned everything there is to know about sewing. I'm good. Like that'll never happen. I don't know that I would ever branch into making like clothing or some of the other things that other people make. I make skirts, but that's a pretty simple pattern. So I don't know, maybe regalia. I've made a jingle dress. I probably could be a lot better at it. that would be great. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things. Quill work. I learned the basics, but I know how to dye quills. I have lots of dyed quills. So maybe my next venture will be learning how to use them a bit better.
You need to come over and like actually look through your crafting room. Oh my God, it sounds like you have everything in there.
Well, let's move in. Okay. My plan was to move this and hopefully not drop everything. So let's see if this works. Talk amongst yourselves. I hope I'm not so pinned. Okay. I didn't break anything. Score. Any other questions while I get resituated here?
Anna or Danielle, do you have questions? Oh, and also before you do, I just wanted to open it up to the people watching live. If you have any questions, please ask at any time and I can ask Dene for you.
Awesome.
I was wondering, what was the first thing you remember sewing and how long ago was that?
The first thing I remember sewing. Well, I have very distinctive memories of like sewing in junior high when you take home ec. But I'm trying to think of probably, you know, I have really distinct memories of like thinking that I was being helpful when my mom or my stepmom was sewing, but I probably wasn't very helpful because I was little. So I still have quilts that my mom made, and I remember very distinctly she would be working on it like before I went to kindergarten. So I have that, I can remember that completely. And it's, you know, this like really kind of luxurious kind of velour, kind of velveteen material. And I think I just remember the texture. And so I still have that quilt. It's very precious to me, and it's not actually kind of in use. It's in my special storage location because I'm really concerned about the longevity of it. But I definitely remember thinking that I was contributing in a way. I don't know if I was though. Was I actually sewing anything? Probably not. But feeling like I was a part of creating something. I remember that feeling, yeah.
We have another question from Facebook from Claudine. Any tips on sourcing supplies?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I think it all depends like what you want to make. And so I think the biggest part of sourcing supplies for me has been the journey to figure out what it is that I like. And just because I like it doesn't mean that it's the right way or the only way to do things. And so figuring out, you know, my taste when it comes to crafting and not my brand, but like what is the stuff that I make that makes it my stuff. And so my fabric collection, I think at this stage when I started getting to that point, because there's a point when you buy fabric for projects, and then there's the point that you just buy stuff because collecting crafting supplies is almost as fun as crafting. So I think once you get to that point, it's because you actually enjoy and understand that stuff that appeals to you. And so I know Danielle and I are really kind of on the same length. We really like really old type of cotton calico flower fabrics. They're pretty hard to find. So when you find them, you kind of start like accumulating a stash of so many different things. And so I have a nice little like stack of like, oh, I bet Danielle would like this one. And I bet she would probably like this one. Then she'd probably like this one. And then this one, like all of these, right? Like all of those are kind of like, I think this one's kind of 70s, but I'm into it. I don't know what I would make with it. A skirt probably. But all these kind of old type of florals. My mom is really, Mom, I know you're watching, and she's an enabler because she knows my taste as well. And so she'll find them and then she'll text me a picture and be like, look what I saw. We should go to the store. So I think sourcing the stuff that you really like, that really speaks to you, because I think above all, your supplies have to inspire that creative energy as well.
I love that. We have another question. These are such good questions. I'm so happy you guys are asking questions on the live. So how about preserving projects? She said, my grandma's quilt I have is now unraveling.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've had the same kind of like when do you sort of take things out of circulation because you're really concerned about their longevity. So the pandemic, actually, there's been a bunch of museums have done some preservation stuff that I found really really interesting. And I think there's also, you have to weigh that debate between using it gives you so much joy, but also keeping it gives you so much joy. So you kind of have to figure out what's the balance in between that. Or is there a way you can keep it on display because seeing it makes you happy? Like, we shouldn't be locking these things away. They're not meant to be in a cupboard that nobody looks at. So if seeing it brings you so much joy, how can you figure out a way to display it or use it that you still get that joy from? Because it really makes me sad to think about beadwork that's locked away in a museum cabinet, or things that just aren't sort of living that life that they really are meant to be doing. And so I really hope that even like I mentioned, the quilt my mom made me, I still bring it out, especially when I'm like not feeling well, or if I'm really like really like just want to have a night by myself on the couch, like I for sure will bring it out and cuddle with that one just because of the pleasure it gives me and how it makes me feel. So I do think there's small repairs that you can do as well. So not being afraid to consult with some museum people or some crafty people to think on how you can preserve stuff. Certainly don't let it start fraying and then keep fraying, because that it's not going to stop.
I was given a star blanket. My granny gave me a star blanket and I had the same question. So thank you so much for asking that. I love that. And thank you, Dene.
Yeah, no problem. My sister actually was gifted, I have an adopted sister who has really nice moccasins on her feet now. And her grandmother, she was gifted all her grandmother's sewing kits. And in her sewing kit, she actually found a star that was unfinished. So it didn't have any background. It just was the star on its own. And she really wanted to do something with it. So we actually together, we worked and finished it and made it into a quilt. And like to work with her grandmother's hand stitches was really, really awesome. And really to make it into something that she could use on a daily basis was more important than keeping it locked away. And so figuring out, what did that look like? And my sister has 2 little kids, like it's going to get spilled on, it's going to get used, but that's kind of the purpose that she wanted for it. So remembering that we don't have to keep things locked away in order to appreciate them.
I can say.
Mm.
I have another question. I have so many questions. I have all the questions. Why is creating important to you?
Oh yeah. Well, I think everyone has their outlet, right? And I think especially at this time when we need to be so aware of our own mental health and our own well-being, and recognize that we're also in a time that that everyone's just being really conscious about how we expend our energy and the things that we're putting energy into. It's interesting to think about back in history during the times of other pandemics and other sort of world crises and the explosion of art and beauty that comes after it. So, after what happened after the last Spanish flu pandemic, we had the Roaring 20s and this explosion of art and creation and things that happened. And so when we think about this moment in time and how we're going to look back on it, it's going to be interesting to think of, what's going to come out of here. And I think there's been so many expressions during this pandemic, like when we think of people making beaded masks and those being shown in museums and these sort of new ways of sharing knowledge that we are in the middle of. We're going to look back on this time as a really interesting and creative time for all of us, I hope. At least for me it was. And so that's I think been really important to my own well-being through the pandemic, because it gave me a way to connect to other people, but it also gave me I'm really guilty for spending like an entire winter weekend like locked in the basement and working on some big project, and my partner will come and just sort of deliver food to the doorway and just walk away and just leave me down here. But it's really, probably the best way that I could be spending my time. Sorry, I have to plug in my phone. Mm-hmm.
So we have another question actually coming from chat. I think Donis would like to see some more things that you've created.
Donis. She knows what's down here. I feel like she can feel the vibe from down here. So, okay. So we talked about sewing, we talked about patterns, and my really like sort of shameful lack of basket skills. So sorry, John Pigeon. I hope you're not watching and embarrassed of me. Okay, so let's talk about beadwork. Just realized I don't have anything old. Most of this stuff is kind of like all pandemic projects, but okay, that's all right. Okay, I'll grab this. Hold on. Okay, so when people, of course, a lot of times will think of like beautiful things that that our people will make, a lot of people think of beadwork. And so beadwork has been a really fun journey for me, and I'm continuing to work on it. And all my friends all laugh because I don't do like, you know, small little earring projects that you can get done in an evening and are really rewarding. No, I'll do like 6-month-long projects that take me a really long time, and it feels like I'm working on them forever. So so learning moccasins, part of my learning moccasins, I've never made sort of like the traditional pucker toe style, but I really wanted to learn Ojibwe split toe moccasins. And the aforementioned Neil Oppendijkebun, he came and taught at the center and did a class that the center hosted, and I was really fortunate to learn from him. And then as well, Shannon Gustafson also ran an online class that really sort of cemented some of my knowledge and ability. So I was really proud to finally make myself a pair of split toe. And certainly it was their conjoined teaching skills. Sorry, I'll hold that up closer. Conjoined teaching skills that contributed to this. So they're kind of a plain, because I really just wanted to practice the technique. And I do wish I had my sisters because they are a lot fancier, but that was my other pair. So I think I'll probably make another pair this winter. We'll see whose name I get for the Christmas draw. And, they're really enjoyable and lovely to make. So some smaller projects I've been making lately, because I've been trying to get less frustrated with really long, drawn out projects. Scissor cases are super fun to make. I notoriously use really tiny beads because I think they're pretty, but scissor cases are fun. So I like working on these. Here's a tobacco pouch, also with really tiny beads. I'm sorry, everybody. So these are 15s.
So beautiful.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That project that you had there was the inspiration for some of what we did in our beading program with Danielle.
Oh, this one?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, a little tobacco pouch is always good. And so I've also been making, these aren't done yet, but I can make small projects too. Little orange circle pins. That's fun. Oh, I also made I really wanted to learn how to Danielle, what kind is this? Brick stitch.
That's brick, yeah.
See, we need Danielle to tell us these things. I really wanted to learn how to brick stitch, and Mawa was offering a class. So, really bad with these cameras. So I brick stitch earrings. See, I've made earrings. Those are the only earrings I've ever made. But then it's me, and yeah, I can't just do small projects. So I really decided that I really wanted to do an octopus bag. Some people call it a fire bag. And so I texted a whole bunch of really amazing artists that I knew and said, hey, do you have a pattern, or how do people get started? Turns out everyone just kind of makes up their own. We all watch the same 4 YouTube videos and then sort of just try and figure it out. But the nice thing, same with my quilting process, I don't really buy patterns and then follow them. I kind of just, I'll maybe get inspired by a pattern. Even the Bargello, like I kind of just figured out my own thing because that's part of the process that I just enjoy. So I made an octopus bag. And this was a learning process to figure out the pattern, to figure out many different things, including how do you get the legs to do that. But so many of my teachers have contributed to this in different ways, whether these flowers are part of Jessica Gokey's patterns. And then different techniques that I learned from other people. So shout out to, same with Gregory Schofield, who shares about octopus pegs like so generously and amazingly, and was willing to answer my questions as well. Really able to provide a lot of advice. So this bag's not done because it has to have like kind of little pom-pom dangly things, and it's not done. It did get used. I danced it around, but that was a fun project.
So beautiful.
I saw
So
that on TikTok, so it's nice to see the finished product, or the almost finished product.
almost, and you know, it has a strap so I can wear it. So it's usable. It's usable. Even without the
Kale?
pom-pom, but that's a project.
Kale in the comments says deadly with the star emojis.
Whoa, that's legit, Kale. Me, which.
I want to
We
know
also
about
have
the
a,
pom-poms.
You
Are
want
you
to
going to
know?
learn how to make the pom-poms?
I have practiced pom-poms. So I think I figured it out, but I have to commit to like, I have to find the right bead that connects to the pom-pom. That's the part I'm having a hard time with. Like I keep holding things up to it and then I'll kind of look at it for like a week and then I'm like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. So I think the pom-pom part I have figured out, and I have more of this same wool. I just did a braided wool strand. So I don't know. The bead is holding me
Yes.
back, honestly. Maybe I should come look at your beads.
No. Just kidding.
I know the right bead is out there somewhere. Okay, so then because I did this, like I said, part of the funnest part of making new stuff and figuring new stuff out is then sharing it and collaborating. So then my stepmom and my aunt and my cousin were like, hey, that's a cool bag. Can you show us how? And I was like, yeah, I can. I don't know much, but I can tell you what I figured out. And so we've collectively, we haven't done it for most of the summer, but at the start of the spring, and we're going to start again next week, we get together on Sundays and we work on bags together. So the fun part is we're all going to have bags. So I have another one on the go.
oh my gosh.
It's like the rainbow. I don't know what's happening here. There's a lot. It's a rainbow bag. So you can see how I do my patterns is how Neil Opendijk Ibon taught us how. We put our fabric on a picture frame that we buy from the dollar store, or that we've ripped the canvas off. You can use canvas or picture. And then you put it on here and then you draw it with a white gel pen. So thankful for amazing teachers who teach me these amazing things. And so each of these flowers, I started with the center and then I drew the leaves and then I added one flower and then it kind of just went from there. And I think my beadwork is done at this point. So the next stage would be to line it, to cut it out, and then start putting it all together. And I keep joking with my Sunday beading crew that I've been done forever. I'm just waiting for them. I'm just kidding. I'm not. I really just finished it recently. And we're going to get together probably this Sunday or next Sunday and start putting them together. So I hope that's another one I'll have done this winter.
Exciting.
Maybe. And I don't know where that one's going to go.
I really love how what you're doing in crafting is reclamation and then restarting the sharing of these traditions as well.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's, I think it's a really cool way. And you think about, other, even non-Indigenous, crafting things and, some of the quilting. I'm involved with like non-Indigenous quilting groups and the sharing that happens there. But just that sense of community and coming together, I think is really such an important part of community that we don't necessarily talk about all the time, but that crafting can really bring people together.
We have a final question in our Facebook comments.
Cool.
Angeline would like to know how you keep all of your supplies organized And what are your favorite things to stay organized? I think they just want to see like all of your craft room. They just want a detailed tour, I think.
I think we're doing a walk around tour. Is that I saw Angeline and Donis were already discussing about looking at that. Okay. Okay. Well, I can only show certain shelves because only certain shelves are organized. So how about that? Oh.
I want to see them all. Organized, I want to know how they transition. Because I've had a lot of unorganized shelves myself.
Okay, hold on. Let's do the turnaround camera because no one needs to see me from that angle. Okay, here we go. First of all, you need to see the craft room manager. That's Nietzsche.
Oh my gosh, Bonjour, Nietzsche.
Okay, he's always in here, probably because it's also my favorite room. So let's start with beads. The beading wall. It looks more organized from far away, but then you come up close, you realize, oh, it's not actually organized. So dollar store containers. But most of these are labeled in some way. So I'm somewhat organized. I know there are certain beaders out there that have like a binder with all of their things. I'm not that person. But I do try to go by color.
I'm not the only one who labels their beads.
No, you're far more organized than I am. Like, I also don't have labels for every single one because I don't know every single one. This one doesn't have a label, for example. So I could pretend that I'm really organized, but I'm not.
I could probably identify them for you.
Great, you can come over. Okay, so I do keep other ones that are sort of specialized in separate containers. So here's 13s, here's 15s. These ones are delicas. This is more patterns. And then these are 15 Japanese. So I keep my Czechs and my Japanese separate. Then it's all like little beading projects are kind of in the middle here. That's cute, hey? So then there's also tubes, pegboards, or where it's at. Sorry, this is a total disaster, you guys. Oh my gosh. It looks nicer in person. Pegboards are really amazing. So that's the beading cave.
Do you have any
It looks like
recommendations to find pegboards?
This one's IKEA. But you know what? In my in my stepmom's crafting room, we actually did like Home Depot pegboards. It was cheaper, and they're bigger. So it kind of depends on the space you have to work with.
Right on, thank you.
No problem. Okay, now we're on bookshelves. Yeah, there's stuff up there too. Okay, so these are like shoebox containers from Dollarama. They keep my life very organized and very civilized. So like bias tape, Fox brand. If anyone does any like regalia or like old school, this is that Fox brand. This is silk ribbons because I did do a lot of my I like to use lots of natural materials if I can, so I try to use silk ribbons, but of course I do have lots of synthetic as well. Like I said, I have a lot of fabric scraps. This is just the organized ones. We're not going to talk about this disorganized one. And then my fabric is on, you can use comic boards. I've also made my own boards from stuff from the dollar store. So they're all nice little books. This is anything 2 meters and below. I also notions in these little dollar store containers. Makes it a lot easier to find stuff. These are all clips, pins, stickers, elastic, porcupine quills, pins. There's a lot of storage there, but that's not disorganized, so let's not talk about it. And then I have a closet in this room. So this is also larger pieces of fabric. So I've just made my own bolts. And that's all right here. So this row is all wool and cotton velveteen, and then the bottom is all flannel for backings. That's the mess live. That's it.
We love it.
Here we go.
For those of you watching live on Facebook, this has been a long time coming. Everyone has been asking Dene to show us her craft room like for months. It's been months.
And now you see it. Oh, the ribbon organizers make life so much better. Oh my God, those are ribbon. I got those from Joanne Fabrics in the States, back when we could go to the States.
You should do classes on how to organize because all of my stuff is just in a box in the corner of a closet.
Well, I recognize my privilege in having a whole room dedicated to this, but it also was, this did start out solely as a craft. This was a spare bedroom at one point. And then it turned into my craft room. And then we started working at home. So then I had to make a livable craft room that looked okay on Zoom. So that probably has kept me a bit more accountable. And yes, I did clean it this morning. It doesn't look like this all the time. It's not going to look like this by tomorrow either.
That's okay. We love it. So we are out of time. We've gone way over, which is totally okay. I loved every second. But I do have one more question before we go. Do you have any advice for people who want to get into crafting?
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to say, like, just do it but I mean, that accounts for people who have privilege to buy supplies and people who have privilege to have space in a safe space. But I think probably the best suggestion I could offer people is to find like-minded people, because I think that's where we're going to find inspiration. So find your community. There's lots of classes out there, even in pandemic time. There's lots of online groups, and there's no pressure to sort of show up and be like, hi, I'm a master beater, here I am, and the 400 things I've made. You know, like I said, my beading group, we don't even talk about beading. Half the time we forget to ask each other what we're working on, and we're just like, one girl, I'm not going to mention names, my friends, but someone just orders French fries and just sits there and eats while the rest of us bead. So I think it's about finding your community, though, and finding your people and finding the people that inspire you, and don't get discouraged, because there's no wrong way to do any of this. That's it.